I have no doubt that Charlie's voice and the courage he put into the hearts of countless people, especially young people, will live on.
Now at 4, remembering Charlie Kirk a day after his assassination. The new honor for the right-wing political activist, the latest in the search for his killer, and how his death is dominating political conversations.
It's been nearly a quarter century today since 9/11, and not all the victims have even been identified as of now. We have some of the work that's happening underway right now to make sure that America never forgets.
And temperatures have been above average, and we're going to stay warm through the next week or maybe 2. Have a look at what you can expect in your forecast. Live from Indy, you're watching 13 News at 4.
Let me express the horror and grief so many Americans at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk have felt. Charlie was a giant of his generation, a champion of liberty, and an inspiration to millions and millions of people.
Today, President Trump announced he will posthumously award Charlie Kirk with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. It is the United States' highest civilian honor awarded by the president to individuals who have made exemplary contributions to the nation's interests or significant public or private endeavors. Meantime, the manhunt continues for Kirk's killer.
The 31-year-old died yesterday. He was shot while speaking to a large group of students at the campus of Utah Valley University. The FBI today says it recovered what they believe to be the shooter's gun.
Michael Yoshida has the latest in this story.
The FBI releasing photos of a person of interest in connection with the fatal shooting of Charlie Kirk.
We will not stand for what happened yesterday. We are exhausting every lead.
Wednesday's deadly shooting happened while the Trump ally and conservative activist was speaking to a large crowd on the campus of Utah Valley University.
We didn't know that this was a single shot event. There's been so many mass shootings. Like, that was what was going through my head, is what's going to happen next after that shot.
The 31-year-old Kirk was rushed to the hospital where he later died.
Knowing that they are doing everything that they can to find the person responsible is reassuring.
Cell phone video from the event shows what appears to be an individual in dark clothing on a rooftop of one of the school's buildings. Investigators saying they have surveillance video showing the suspected gunman.
We have tracked his movements onto the campus, through the stairwells, up to the roof, across the roof to a shooting location.
After firing the deadly shot, investigators say the gunman jumped off the building and fled into a nearby neighborhood.
We have recovered what we believe is the weapon that was used in yesterday's shooting. It is a high-powered bolt-action rifle.
The FBI is analyzing the weapon, including, according to CNN sources, cultural phrases written on the rifle and ammunition. In Washington, Michael Yoshida.
This deadly shooting is just another moment amid a rising threat of political violence.
Experts say it's a trend and it's troubling. And one political scientist says she expects it to continue. Jenna Webster joins us now. And Jenna has more on what this political scientist is saying, what's contributing to this.
Yeah, so I talked to Laura Wilson, who is a political science professor at UIndy. She says how we speak about politics has become so polarized and just filled with all this tension that it's really not surprising that events like this keep happening. She actually points to social media and misinformation as being a big part of that. So it's not just one type of person being targeted either. In the last 14 months, we've seen 2 assassination attempts on President Donald Trump, 2 Minnesota lawmakers shot in their homes, a fire set at the Pennsylvania governor's house, gunfire sprayed at the CDC headquarters, and 2 Israeli embassy employees killed in D.C. Now, the way we talk about politics is so heightened, she says, we just can't agree to disagree. So then when events like the Charlie Kirk shooting happens, both sides of the spectrum actually feel like they have to react, she said.
What I hope is that at some point, we look at this and we say, oh, this is absolutely outrageous. This is too much. What gets us to that point is probably something that most people agree is absolutely outrageous. So unfortunately, we'll probably have to have a tragedy of incredible magnitude and substance for a majority of Americans, regardless of ideology and partisanship, to say, we've gone too far. We need to correct this.
So we have seen many lawmakers from both sides of the aisle condemn yesterday's shooting. But another thing Dr. Wilson and I talked about today, and this is outside of her as a political scientist, but as a mother, is that her teenage son last night on TikTok was seeing all of this conversation about it. All these people actually kind of celebrating and applauding what happened. And that was another thing that, you know, she says people are talking about with their kids, that this is contributing to some of this violence we're seeing. And coming up tonight at 6, we're going to talk more about the impact of political violence on our democracy and civil discourse.
All right, Jenna, thank you.
On to more news. Psychologists testified today about the IQ of the man charged with killing Elwood police officer Noah Chavez and facing a possible death penalty.
Rich and I was at the hearing. It was in Madison County to determine if Carl Boards II has an intellectual disability.
The first death penalty trial since Indiana resumed execution should be for Carl Boards, although there are several legal hurdles still to get over before that trial is scheduled to begin in January. More than 3 years have passed since Elwood police officer Noah Chavez was shot and killed during a traffic stop. His parents attend each court hearing. They did not want to speak on camera, but Matt and Lori Chavez believe Boards should receive the most severe penalty allowed by Indiana law: execution. 2 court-appointed psychologists testified on their reports that showed Boards scored 92 and 83 on separate IQ tests, well above the threshold of an intellectual disability.
The parties had the opportunity to make arguments based off of the evaluations and the testimony that was presented today, and I would expect a ruling from the court in the next few weeks.
Also still to be argued and ruled on by the judge is whether Boards is mentally competent to stand trial. Ann Anderson, Rich Knight, 13 News.
And today, prosecutors announced they charged a man with raping a 13-year-old. Larry Dewerson Jr. is now charged with 2 counts of rape and child molestation for allegedly attacking the sleeping teenager. This happened in February of 2016 in Lawrence. Dewerson is also facing a number of other charges, including attempted rape, robbery, and kidnapping for a pair of attacks on women on the Monon Trail last month. Prosecutors said it was DNA from those attacks that helped them match Dewerson with the attack on the 13-year-old 9 years earlier. And we now know the name of a 58-year-old man killed in a shooting on Indy's north side.
It happened around noon yesterday at an apartment on Dowitch Lane. That's where officers tell us they found Curtis Harris inside an apartment. He died there at the scene. Police believe it started with a disturbance between 2 people who knew each other. No information on a suspect at this hour.
Well, we absolutely love when our meteorologists get it right because this is what they predicted and this is what we got.
Yeah, and they do that day after day after day. Today, sunny and a bit hazy and a lot warmer.
You know what I really like is the fact that we all coordinated our outfit colors today.
Yes.
And that matches the weather map as well, because we're kind of on the warmer side.
Aesthetic.
Yeah, we're all kind of in this warmer shade for sure. Look, this is going to stick around for a while, and there's no huge rain chances in the forecast, so it's really just getting the temperature numbers right, and I think we're going to see much more of the same. So 84 is where we sit currently. We expect to stay in the 80s or even reach the 90s over the next several days. Weather-wise, at least over the next 24 to maybe 48 hours, there's not a whole lot happening. It's really just watching the temperatures warm way up during the afternoon because we've got clear skies for the most part. There's no rain in the immediate short-term forecast, so the temperatures are able to warm up quite quickly during the afternoon. And then as we get into the overnight, the temperatures are able to drop pretty quickly. So even the evenings do feel a little bit more comfortable than they could if the humidity was much higher. So these 80s that we're seeing right now will quickly begin to drop through the 70s, and I think by the time we get even before midnight, we'll be back down through the 60s and probably ending up in the 60s for our overnight low temperatures tonight, although some upper 50s are certainly going to be a part of the forecast. Mostly clear skies. I'll put 61 on there, but there are going to be some locations that get into the upper 50s. The air is relatively dry. We kind of have all of the optimum conditions to see those temperatures drop down into the upper 50s like we have for many of the evenings, the overnights that we've seen for this month, for the first part of this month. 88 is what we're expecting for tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be a day almost identical to today. going to start out on the milder or cooler side, and then very quickly we're going to see these temperatures warm up to 88. And this is just the start of a warm up, which will go even warmer than this as we get closer and closer to the weekend. I'll talk a little bit more about some rain chances. There's some little glimmer of hope in our 7-day forecast. I'll have that for you coming up. In the meantime, let's talk traffic. A couple things I want to make you aware of. Overall, we're not seeing too many major concerns on the interstates. I do want to take you to Interstate 70 on the east side. This is going to be closer to, say, Mithofer Road. Westbound, heading towards the city, is slowing down. I'll show you the traffic camera. That slowdown is still happening, but there was a vehicle earlier that had gone off the road. They had to block the right lane heading westbound towards the city, I should say, where they had to remove that vehicle. So just keep that in mind. If you're going to be heading westbound towards the city on Interstate 70, there's going to be a slowdown right before you get to Interstate 465. Otherwise, an additional traffic camera here, 465 at Allisonville Road. This is actually looking pretty good for this time of day. I'll continue to monitor the volume and watch if there's any other locations that have some issues, and I'll bring those to you coming up.
Thanks, Rob. Coming up, remembering 9/11 and those who lost their lives on that fateful day. Also, the continued work underway right now to identify the 2,996 victims.